Okay, so story time. So basically one time in 5th grade, my dad took me to get breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts. We went there before school like always, and as we were there, this strange man outside was staring at me and like making faces. Super creepy. We didn't know him or anything, so we walked inside and I was kind of freaked out. I told my dad that I was creeped out by him and he told me that nothing bad was gonna happen. Or so he thought. So we got our foods and we ate it. Everything was fine, you know, chill. After we were done, we got up to leave. The man was gone by now, so I felt better But then on the way to my school, I saw him walking on the sidewalk. Like, I figured he was going to his house or like somewhere else. When we got to my school, no one was outside. It was kind of weird. We went to open the door because my dad was a part of the PTA, so he came in with me. The door for some reason was locked. My music teacher out of nowhere ran out and brought us inside quickly. She told us that our whole school was on code red. Scary. And that a man was in our school, so we went inside and I went and hid in the music room. Like for part 2.
Story time on how my boyfriend tried to do the nasty with my dog. Okay, so boom, we about to jump right in. So I had a really good boyfriend and every day after school, he came over to my place. Both my parents worked till late, so we had a lot of time to just have fun. So my dog was a big white Samoyed and he was obsessed with her. This was kind of a red flag, but I ignored it because, I mean, it's a dog. We dated for 2 months and things just kept getting weird. Second red flag, he paid less and less attention to me when he was over and more to my dog. So one day while he ignored me and played with my dog again, I got a phone call from my teacher. My teacher told me that I had to go to school right this second. I was really confused, but I obviously still went. Even though it was a Saturday, it ended up being a prank, but whatever, just push that to the side for now. I trusted my boyfriend with my dog and to stay home alone, and I went to the school. And this was a big mistake because my boyfriend did the unthinkable. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend tried to do the nasty with my dog. Okay, so boom, like I said, I left my boyfriend home alone with my dog and I went to go to the school. The school was actually really close to me, so it really wasn't going to take me that long anyways. When I arrived to the school, there was no one there. All the teachers were gone and the school was locked. It ended up being a stupid prank by my friend, getting me back for when I pranked her. But whatever, I went back home. And I'm sure my boyfriend didn't expect me to come back so quickly. So I went back and I didn't see my boyfriend or my dog in the garden. And the house was empty. At first I thought he kidnapped her, but then I started hearing noises coming from my dog from the basement. I opened the basement door and there it was. My boyfriend pants down trying to do with my dog. My dog ran to me and I locked my boyfriend in the basement. My parents immediately came home and my ex got grounded for life. I don't know what else happened to that weirdo, but now I'm dating his ex-best friend and we're happy and normal. Story time on how I hid in my boyfriend's closet and watched him get nasty with my best friend. Okay, so boom, I'ma jump right into this one. So me and my boyfriend been together for 1 year and my best friend was the one who got us together. In the beginning, me and my boyfriend were in the honeymoon stage and I couldn't get enough of him, child. And meanwhile, my best friend was hating and started to get jealous. She started giving me attitude when I would call her. She started avoiding me when I would ask to go out. And she started to text me way less. So I took it as her trying to distance herself from me. I cried to her telling her she's my best friend and I don't want to lose her. Then we got back to being okay. Fast forward a couple months to the stage me and my boyfriend relationship is at now. Yeah, now he's acting funny. He's not talking to me as much. He's always distracted on his phone when I'm with him. And he started making excuses on why I almost never see him. Well, I'm crazy. And I was going to find out exactly what's going on. So I took his keys. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I hid in my boyfriend's closet and watched him get nasty with my best friend. Okay, so boom, like I said, I'm crazy. And my boyfriend was acting funny, so I was going to get to the bottom of things. My boyfriend gave me spare keys to his apartment in the beginning of our relationship. You know, when we was in the honeymoon stage. I never used it because he always was home and he always opened the door for me. So he kind of forgot I had it, but I sure didn't. So this day, I let myself in. I wanted to see exactly why today he couldn't see me. So I went up to his room and I just hid in the closet. About an hour later, he came home with company. They didn't even watch a movie first. They immediately came to his room. I was peeking through the little closet space and my jaws dropped when I seen it was my best friend. They undressed each other and he slammed her on the bed. Y'all wouldn't believe what happened next. Like for part 3. Story time on how I caught my boyfriend cheating on me, so I stole his side piece and made her my girlfriend. Okay, so boom, we jumping right in. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years and he knows that I'm bi. But it was one of those situations that you're with a guy for so long, people forget that you're even into girls. Because obviously I'm faithful to my man, but can't say the same for him. My boyfriend started to do the typical signs of a cheater. He was always texting and smiling on his phone. He was starting to see me a lot less. And he was giving excuses to why we never slept on the phone together anymore. Well, one night I was finally sleeping over and I knew this was my one chance to look through his phone because I probably wasn't going to see him for another week or two. While he was sleeping, I took his thumb and unlocked his phone. It didn't take me long to find his side piece. It hurt me so much to see him say he missed holding her and kissing her and a lot more graphic things. I went to his Instagram friend list and I put her name and I found her. Then I followed her. I put his phone back and then I left. And this is the beginning of the end. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I caught my boyfriend cheating on me, so I stole his side piece and made her my girlfriend. Okay, so boom, like I said, I followed her on Instagram, I put my boyfriend's phone back and I left. He called me the next day asking where I was and I just told him I couldn't sleep, so I just came home. A couple hours go by and his side piece follows me back. I DM'd her with intentions to find out what's going on with her and my boyfriend, but we actually ended up having a great conversation. Then we exchanged numbers and talked all night. We hit it off so well we went out the week after. Then we got drunk and we started making out. There was just this natural spark between us. And I guess since I was taking all of her time, my boyfriend had a lot more time. My boyfriend started asking to see me a lot more. Oh, now you want to see me. Well, his side piece came over one night and it was time for me to come clean. I ended up telling her that I really liked her, but that originally I was just going to ask her about my boyfriend. Child, a tea after this. Like for part 3. Story time on how protecting my kids landed me in jail. Okay, so boom. I have 2 daughters who I really love and they're the type of girls who are extra. My youngest is 16, my oldest is 18, and I myself am 38. Now, when I say my kids are extra, I mean they don't hold back how they feel. If they don't like something, they express themselves, and that's a blessing and a curse. But on this particular day, it was a curse. So one day we were at Walmart and I was in the kitchen section. Then all of a sudden my kids come running to me with a man running after them. I said, hey, what are you doing chasing my daughters, as they hid behind me? Then before the man could even answer, my oldest daughter said he grabbed my youngest daughter and told her to come with him. But then my oldest daughter pushed him back and grabbed my youngest daughter and said, don't put your dirty ass hands on my sister. And this man's response to my daughter is when I lose my shit and black out. Like for
Story time about how my obsessive ex tried to kidnap me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My obsessive ex and I met 3 years ago. We both live in LA and met on set on a modeling job. The first day that we met, he was totally cool, really friendly. Obviously, he was very good looking, so I liked him. But I had just gotten out of a serious relationship, so I had no intention on dating anyone. When he asked me for my phone number after the photo shoot finished, I politely said no. But guess what? The following day, I got a text message from him. He told me he asked the makeup artist for my phone number and she gave it to him. I told him that he shouldn't have done that because I had told him I didn't want to give him my phone number, but he explained that he really liked me and that all he wanted to do was just hang out like friends. At the time, I had no friends in LA. I mean, even now, I only have like one good friend, so I accepted to go have breakfast with him the following day. And of course, he was the most charming guy I had ever met. And weirdly enough, we had the exact same interests. I loved horseback riding, painting, and cooking. And that's when he told me that he also loved horseback riding, painting, and cooking. He even showed me some of his paintings that he had hung up at his apartment. After that, we hung out occasionally. He would come over to my place and I would cook and we would watch a movie. After a few weeks, he invited me to hang out with his guy friends. We had a really great time and all of his guy friends really enjoyed my company. But toward the end of the night, I could tell that he was getting really jealous. When he took me home, he asked me if I liked his friends. And of course, I said no. Then he said that it looked like I was having a little too much fun with them. But here's the thing, the way he said it was really cute, like almost endearing, like I actually felt bad for him. So at that time, it didn't really freak me out. We didn't speak for a few days and I realized that I was actually missing him. So I reached out and asked him if he wanted to go on an official official date? And he said, of course. After that first date, he asked me to be his girlfriend and I said yes. Things moved really quickly after that. He moved into my apartment, we got a dog, and we met each other's families. For 2 months, everything was going really, really well. I was pretty happy with the relationship, I loved our new dog, and we were both getting a lot of modeling work individually. Especially me. I got a campaign with a pretty big designer and it was my dream come true. I had to travel to Italy for the campaign and he got very jealous. He started asking me questions like who's gonna be there? Do you already know the other models? And of course I didn't. I had no idea who was gonna be there or who the other models were gonna be. This was pretty much the beginning of the end. I was in Italy for 2 weeks, and while I was there, he would constantly call me, text me, check up on me. It even started affecting the work I was doing. I would run to my phone in between shots just to answer it so that he wouldn't think I was doing something bad. The photographer even asked me to put my phone away, and I did. Of course, this made him freak out. The following day, he shows up at my hotel. He told me that I needed to start behaving like his girlfriend. Then he started going to all the photo shoots with me. He would watch me like a hawk while I was working. Things get scary. Part 2 is Part 2 of how my obsessive ex tried to kidnap me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After he acted really controlling and jealous in Italy, I decided to break up with him. When we got back to LA, I told him he needed to move out. He totally freaked out, grabbed my phone and threw it up against the wall. I kicked him out and told him never to come back. The following day, I had to go buy a new phone, and I told him that if he wanted to come pick up his stuff, he could. Luckily, he took all his stuff when I wasn't there, and he even left his apartment key. I thought it was all over. 3 days later, he started blowing up my phone asking if we could talk. I told him I didn't want him coming into my apartment anymore. We agreed to meet in the parking garage so that I could give him a few things he forgot, which of course he left in my apartment so that he had a reason to come back. He finally arrived and asked me to get in the car, but I told him I would not get in the car. Then he started crying and begging for me to get in the car. I had never seen him like this, so I got into the car. He instantly locked all the doors and wouldn't let me out. Then he started driving really fast. I told him to let me out of the car and he said no. I asked him where we were going, but he wouldn't tell me. We finally got into a red light and I managed to unlock the door and get out. I ran straight into a restaurant and I asked them to call the cops, but he came running in after me. Luckily, a few of the servers stopped him before he could reach me. I asked them to take him out and lock the door. I called 911 and told them everything. Within 2 minutes, a police officer was there. And when he searched my ex's car, he found rope, duct tape, and sleeping pills. The officer told me it would be easy to get a restraining order. I called my parents and they flew in straight away. They luckily arrested him that night. When my parents and I went to the police the following day, they told us that they let him out on bail and that they couldn't keep him in there because technically he hadn't done anything illegal. That's when it hit me. I was never going to be safe again as long as he was out there. Later on that day, I found out that one of his cousins is an attorney and that he would do anything to keep him out of jail. So I took it upon myself to do something. I called his modeling agency and told them about everything, and they dropped him from the agency. I moved out of my apartment and got a new phone number, but unfortunately, this hasn't stopped him from finding me. Sometimes I see his car around my neighborhood, and I know that he's made several fake accounts to follow me on Instagram. My parents want me to move back home, but I don't want to. I don't think I should live in fear of him. 2 days ago, he sent me an email and asked me if we could get together and talk. Of course, I said no, but maybe I can reason with him? I don't know. What do you guys think I should do? Story time about how I'm in love with my sister's boyfriend and I think he likes me too. Actually, no. I know so because he kissed me 3 days ago. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. The story I'm about to tell you guys is pretty bad, so please don't come at me in the comments. I swear I'm a good girl. A little backstory. My sister and I have never really gotten along. She's 3 years older than me and thinks she's the queen of the house. And she's always seen me as competition, which I hate. My mom would always try to make us get along, but it was totally impossible. My sister was always upset at something I did. Eventually, I stopped trying with my sister and I wouldn't make any effort to make her like me. Finally, last year she moved out and I was so happy. We celebrated my 20th birthday at home last year, and of course my sister came over. But she brought this really cute boy with her. Let me tell you guys, it was instant love at first sight. I can't even explain what I felt, I just knew that I liked him. Even my mom made a comment about how good looking he was. And can I just say that I caught him staring at me a few times throughout the dinner. After that, I never really saw him because my sister and I never hung out. Until my sister lost her job because of COVID and had to move back in with us. And this meant that I was seeing her boyfriend a lot more around our house. He was so nice to me. Anytime they wanted to watch a movie, he would always invite me. If they were going to go out to eat or go to the beach, he would always invite me. Eventually, I started saying yes, well, because I liked him. And something told me that he liked me too. And yes, I know it's totally wrong, but I just couldn't help myself. Whenever I knew he was going to come over, I would dress up and look really cute. I also had a pool in the backyard, so I would make sure I was in a bikini whenever he came over. I know this sounds bad, but it's gonna get worse. Well, guess what? Around this time, my sister actually got COVID. Thankfully, she didn't get really sick, but she was a little bit under the weather. And of course, she had to quarantine. So she basically stayed in her room and we all were on the other side of the house. Of course, her boyfriend, let's call him Mark, would come over and bring her food sometimes. On one of these occasions, he asked me if I wanted to go to the beach with him and his friends the following day. He knew that I was totally bored because of quarantine, so I said yes. And guess what? He didn't tell my sister that he asked me, and I didn't tell her that I said yes. So it was our little secret. The following day, I wore my sexiest bikini, and we had a great time at the beach with his friends. While we were at the beach with his friends, I could tell that he kept staring at me. And he caught me staring at him too a couple of times. When we drove back to our house, he made a comment about how good I looked in the bikini. That's when I told him that he looked really good too. From then on, we started flirting all the time, making little comments, staring at each other, and he also started following me on Instagram. So I got to work posting sexy stories all the time, and it totally worked because he would reply to them. That's when I sent him a naughty picture. Part 2 is up. Story time about how my lying, cheating husband moved his mistress into our home. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My husband is a classic narcissist. He's a total love bomber, lies, and gaslights. We met through some friends at a party, and the day that we met, he totally love bombed me. He told me I was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen, that he wanted to marry me, and that we should have kids. Unfortunately, I believed everything he said. On our second day, he told me that he loved me. And when I didn't tell him that I loved him back, he got really upset and told me that we shouldn't see each other anymore. A few weeks passed, but I couldn't stop thinking about him, so I reached out. Worst mistake of my life. At the time, I didn't realize how wealthy he was. But boy, did he start letting me know. He would flaunt that he was super rich and even invited me on a trip, which he paid for. We ended up going to the Bahamas and it was magical. Of course, I started falling in love with him. The last day of the trip, he actually asked me to marry him and I said yes. My whole family thought it was absolutely crazy of me because I only knew him for about 2 weeks. When we got back home, I moved into his beautiful house. You see, I was in a really bad situation. I had a part-time job, no savings, and basically no future. At least that's what he said. So when I moved in, he insisted that I quit my job and basically tend to the house, which I did. So I had no money of my own. This was around the time that he would start gaslighting me. Whenever we got into fights, he would call me names and just threaten me. And when I would bring it up later on, he would totally deny that he ever said anything like that. When we started planning the wedding, things calmed down. He was always at work and I was always at home. We finally got married and went on our honeymoon to Italy. And that's when he started changing even more. He would shame me whenever I tried to post a cute picture of myself on Instagram. And he basically convinced me that I was trying to get attention from other guys, so I stopped posting. Our third night in Italy, he got drunk and we got into a really big fight. I decided to leave the hotel, but when I came back a few hours later, he had a random girl in his room and told me to leave. I couldn't believe his behavior. After about 20 minutes, he let me back into the room and told the girl to leave. That's when I told him I was going to go back home and that I made a huge mistake by marrying him. He apologized and started crying. He said nothing happened to her and part of me just wanted to believe him so desperately, so I did. When we got back home, he was on his best behavior. Until one day he told me he wanted to hire a live-in cleaning lady. Little did I know it was his mistress. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my husband moved his mistress into our home. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My narcissist of a husband told me he wanted to hire a cleaning lady. A live-in cleaning lady. A few days later, he shows up with this woman who clearly did not look like a cleaning lady. When I told him I did not want her living in our home, he told me that I had to do what he said because he was the breadwinner. Mind you, he told me to quit my job, so I did. That's when he told me that somebody needed to clean the house, cook for him, and basically take care of him. In other words, I wasn't doing that. Which isn't true because I made him dinners every single day and cleaned the entire house. I told him I knew she wasn't a cleaning lady and that he needed to kick her out. He got really angry and slammed the door. A few minutes later, I hear him coming up the stairs with her. He shows her to the guest room and tells her to settle in. Then he came back into the room, told me that I had to deal with it and that this is how things were going to be from now on. By the way, this girl is Russian, and my husband told me that she did not speak English. So basically, I had no way to communicate with her. But my husband did speak Russian, isn't that convenient? So, every single day, this girl would pretend to wash dishes, pretend to clean his clothes, pretend to make the bed. Oh yeah, and she would only wash his dishes, not mine. The situation was way too much for me, so I told my husband I was going to go stay with my sister. That's when he threatened me and told me that if I left, I might not be able to come back. So of course, I packed my things and went straight to my sister's house. The very next day, my husband shows up to my sister's house with divorce papers. He told me I needed to sign them because he fell in love with the cleaning lady. I told him I wouldn't sign them and he left. Then my sister called the police and told them that my husband had a woman captive in his house and that she was probably in the country illegally. And guess what, y'all? She was. The cops ex actually took her from the house and now he's asking me to move back in. He took the whole divorce back and wants to take me on a trip. My sister thinks I should get back with him just to make his life miserable. The problem is I have no money of my own. And to be honest, part of me still loves him. I really need some advice and perspective from someone who's not me.